What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD Mode podcast interview. And today we have a special treat. We got two of the most amazing, successful human beings inside of our industry from two different countries. Both of these guys are good personal friends of mine and have just built extremely amazing, impressive businesses. And I have to say, I'm excited for this interview for a couple different reasons. Number one, because these two guys, again, as I just mentioned, I've known both of them for a long time. They're some of the most amazing human beings on a personal scale, not even talking about the business side, some of the most giving, just going out there and serving others that truly care, that truly help, no egos, operate from humility in a place of service. Just two guys that I'm honored to know and be able to call friends. And then on the flip side of that, the secondary thing is, man, these guys are kicking massive ass. They are, continuing to build, continuing to scale. So with that, I'm really excited to have Chuck Fazio and Mike Sherrard on the podcast. Welcome back to both of you.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, brother. This is a long time coming and one that I think is going to change a lot of lives for those that stay tuned to the end.
Yeah, man.
It was funny because when you posted on Mike's thing, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is the podcast of podcasts, to bring two juggernauts from one company, two different countries on the best podcast show. This had to happen.
It's when you reached out about doing this, man, because I've had both of you guys on separately several times. I know, Chuck, I think this is your third or fourth appearance, here on the podcast. But for those that maybe don't know you, that this is their first experience with you, maybe we'll start with you, Chuck. Can you just give a kind of quick snapshot of how long you've been in the business, what your business looks like today?
Yeah, so I got in the business 98, moving right out of New York. Knew nothing about real estate. I didn't even own real estate in New York, and I just wanted to do something I could make a lot of money. Got into real estate, sucked at it. 2 years broke. Did not realize how hard it was, but I got to meet my beautiful wife, her first day on the job. And so we were broke together. It was a great relationship. But we went on, just plugging away, trusted in God, and became one of the top agents in the country, ran one of the top teams in the country. And, as a driver and a business builder, you keep going, what's the next logical steps to build a business? Opened up our brokerage in 2005, no name brand, built it to be the largest single office brokerage in the country. Out of one location, 906 agents doing over $2 billion in production a year. Got the knock on the door by EXP about 4.5 years ago. I almost laughed because I'm like, why would I close down the most successful brokerage in the country? Doing great, because people always ask, well, were you going backwards? Were you in trouble? Oh, hell no. We were just getting the party started. But I know the industry, I know business, seen the model, took the biggest leap of faith, basically balls of steel, to literally close down a company doing $2 billion in production, to prove I could rebuild bigger and better on the right platform. And I did. Fast forward 3.5 years from now, that we closed, and over 8,000 agents all over the world.
Yeah. I remember you announced it on a podcast together that we did live in your office. I had no idea. And then you just dropped the news, dude. I didn't even know how to react. If anybody goes back and watch that podcast, I didn't even know how to come up with a follow-up question. I was just shocked. And, but you're a dude that, man, once you make your mind up, and I we talked about this either on Facebook, but you're a guy that, man, once you make your mind up, you create the vision, that thing becomes a reality. Everything you've ever told me you were going to do, boom, it has come to fruition.
Yeah.
All right, Mike, you want to share a little, your quick background with us?
Yeah, dude, it's that's a tough act to follow, so I'll make it short and sweet. But I got into real estate after quitting engineering in 2017, and typical story. 24 years old, new agent, new city, didn't know anybody, had no money. So I did what needed to be done, whatever was free, in order to create leverage of my time. So I door knocked 3 hours a day, 7 days a week for the first 6 months, built momentum. And then I started realizing the importance of leverage. And that's why, first I got to brag on you, Josh. I started understanding the power of social media and being able to create leverage of your time. So I started diving all in on Instagram and building my personal brand. And that's when you and I connected. And that was one of the big catalysts to starting the scaling of my personal brand, was having the blessed opportunity of being featured on GSD mode. And I just, one of my principles is consistency. And the longer you can extend the time horizon for which you're expecting tangible results, you're guaranteed to win. So for me, and learning the principles from you, I just said, you know what, the social media thing isn't going away. I'm going to do it every single day forever. I didn't set a timeline of when I'm expecting to get results. I just did it every single day and have ever since then. So became one of the top producers. My first brokerage first year, was top producer every year after that. And then was about to give up my license because I was tired of chasing the next deal and starting from January 1st at zero. And that's when I started, removing ego and emotion and looking at opportunities with an open mind and saying, hey, there's maybe a different opportunity that's going to allow me to stay in the industry, leverage my passion and my skill set to impact others, but maybe not in the traditional sense. So I, similar to Chuck, took an open opportunity to look at the eXp Realty business model. And then by following blueprints like, my brother Chuck, who's already paved the path to success, joined here. And it's kind of that overnight success moment, right? Where everybody thinks that you come over here and you just blow it up. And I became the top personal attractor globally in my first year. But what they weren't seeing is the 3 years of daily social media work every single day leading up to that, where 3 years in, I was like, is this going to work out? When's it going to work out? How's it going to work out? And it all comes down to aligning with the right vehicle. And, that was a really beautiful synergy of being able to build your personal brand, capitalize on a global opportunity, and scale. So now all I do is help other people build their business just like Chuck does. And it's been a beautiful ride to be able to see what putting out free videos twice a week can do to change thousands of lives.
Yep. Love it. And those that are watching and listening, obviously Chuck and Mike are both with eXp, built massive businesses there, but before we hit the record button and when we were getting together to collaborate this, we're like, hey man, we want to make this a powerful podcast that helps anybody and everybody, regardless whether you're an individual agent, regardless of what company that you're at, whether you're trying to build a team, build a brokerage, whatever, we're just here to share these guys' wisdom and knowledge of how to go out there and build an amazing organization, regardless of where you're at. So my first question for you guys is, both of you guys are both people that operate from massive abundance. You don't operate from a place of scarcity. So much of this industry operates from, it's us versus them. You guys, like, one thing I've learned about both, like, I'm not personally with eXp, but like, dude, if I ever call either of you guys, if I ever need anything, you guys are there. It's like, you don't care. Like you're just come from this place of abundance. How has operating from a place of abundance, regardless of what company, regardless of location, regardless of where somebody's at and all that collaboration, how has that supported and helped your career? What power has that led to? Maybe we'll start with you, Chuck.
Yeah, first of all, I think it starts with mindset, Josh. I think people who don't come from that operate from a place of abundance, they're spending so much time and energy looking at competition and getting bugged and focusing on them that it actually steals their time and their mind from doing the things to make themselves successful. It's toxic. It's just like being angry at someone. Your anger is only causing you. You're not affecting the other person. So number one, operating from a place of abundance is basically a mindset that I'm freeing my mind and taking my joy and focusing on things that are going to help me grow, and not looking at putting other people down or beating them up. The other thing that I've realized in the industry, and I'm blessed, a lot of my responses will come from a place that most agents will never understand, is because I ran such a large real estate brokerage. I got to see the inner workings of the real estate world and lived and breathed that for over 17 years. And one of the things that really hit me, and which I understood, is there are so many real estate agents out there, and there's so much turnover of real estate agents, that from to operate and say there's not enough business out there is just the most ridiculous concept, because there's always business out there. You don't, and you never will capture all the business. You don't need that to be massively successful. All you need is a little piece of it. And once real estate agents understand, even in a down market, people say there's no business out there. It's such a negative term. There's plenty of business for someone who's willing to work to make a living. Now, can it be a little more difficult? Yeah, it requires work. People just don't want to work anymore. So that's when I operate from a place of abundance. I'm putting the blinders on. I'm focused on what I'm in control of. And along the way, I'm going to help whoever wants help to a certain extent. I don't let people suck my time. I always say no is a full sentence. So I make sure people understand that my time is valuable. But if people truly want help, that all workers, and Mike, me and him think the same way on this part, that we realize who are the time suckers and who are the people that are really needing help that we'll pour into them. So that's how I look at it, abundance.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah. And, this is so near and dear to my heart. And I think for me, I'll touch on it in two different ways, which is kind of like personal abundance and then business abundance. And when you look at personal abundance, I was even doing this back at a traditional brokerage. One of the things that you hear all the time is that traditional brokerages, none of the top agents want to share their best information because it creates competition within the office. I was there doing seminars at my past brokerage, showing everything that I've done on social media and said, hey, if people aren't going to align with you, they might as well align with somebody else at the same brokerage and go crush it on social media. But I think, one of the things I always try and do is lead by example. I have created massive competition for myself by the nature of what I do on YouTube, right? I literally give my blueprint away on YouTube all day, every day. The exact strategies that I use, I have inherently created competition with myself by getting more people to leverage YouTube, which saturates it even more because I come from a place of abundance, knowing that that is impact and this fulfillment, right? You get to the point in your business, and when I was young and dumb, I didn't quite know this because I thought the cars and the house and the watches will make you happy. When you realize when you get that stuff, it's the most unfulfilling thing ever. It makes you happy for a week, a month, or a year, but then where's the impact? How many lives are you changing, right? So for me, I come from abundance, understanding that I'm here to create a legacy, and I want to make sure that by the end of my journey, whether it be, hopefully it doesn't get short, but it ends up long, is that I want people to be able to come look at what I've done and say, I'm going to use these strategies to change my business. And I've created competition on the production side. I've created competition on the attraction side. And it doesn't matter to me because at the end of the day, people are going to align with the people that they feel is most in alignment with them. And then when it comes to the kind of business abundance, I always look at, being humble enough to always learn and also understanding your weaknesses, right? And I think a lot of people, especially in any brokerage model or in any business model, if they're starting to become a top producer, they start to get in their own head and think, I'm making $1 million in GCI, or I'm making $1 million in revenue share. I'm good. I know it all. And they start to limit their own growth opportunities, which inherently reduces the impact they can make on other agents. So I was very cognizant of the fact that I had a lot of holes in my bucket. Personally, relationships, didn't understand brokerages. So instead of me trying to just figure it out myself, why not just look from abundance and say, hey, look at this God-given blessing of a human Chuck who has an incredible relationship. He's very humble. He's very fulfilled, and he understands the things that I don't. Well, Chuck also has weaknesses that I happen to complement. Why not just work in alignment together? We're in two different organizations, right? We're not even building together in the general sense, aside from the overall company. And I think it's really important to align with people that plug the holes in your bucket, because if you look at any successful entrepreneur, they learn from people like you, Josh, shorten the learning curve, have the blueprint, align with the people that complement their weaknesses, and they scale. So if you start to look from a place of abundance, you grow quicker, you grow the right way, you avoid obstacles, and you actually make a fulfilling impact on the industry and other people.
Yep.
Yeah, can I touch on one thing too, Josh, and what he says, because it also aligns with you. You come from a place of abundance. This podcast you do, and this is not I'm not blowing smoke up your ass here. I am blown away by how many years you've been doing this consistently, but most importantly, how many lives you impact. You have no idea, because now being at EXP, I get to speak to agents all over the country, and most of them will still say to me, I remember seeing you on GSD mode years ago. So your outreach is so huge. But here's the part I just want to touch on. Making money off of helping people is not a negative thing. Look, we're driven by, we've got to live the world by making money. So your podcast, although there's ways you could leverage that residually, you're still coming from a place of abundance. With me and Mike now, I could help agents all day long even when I own my own brokerage. But what eXp Realty now just afforded me to do from a place of abundance is I could give them advice now that I couldn't even do at my own company that could actually make them money. And in return, I'm still blessed by what I'm doing from an abundance standpoint.
Yep. Love it. Powerful stuff. All right. So, both of you guys are extremely influential. You built obviously very successful organizations. You guys both have big followings, and not just big followings, but respect from those that follow you, right? What have you found to be the core values, if you will? So whether it be from a behavior standpoint, habit standpoint, core value standpoint, because in order to become influential, you have to be somebody that others are willing to follow in whatever aspect it is that they're, choosing to allow you to have influence in that aspect of their life. What would you say are, for each of you guys, those core traits, core things that allow you to go out there and be influential and build such a big following? Maybe we'll start with you on this time, Mike.
Yeah, definitely. There's a number of key traits, and I think this is echoed throughout every aspect of the business. But the first one is being authentic, right? In the beginning, I struggled to build my personal brand, and I struggled to get views on YouTube because I thought you had to have some grandiose, overly energetic personality on YouTube in order to get attention and get views and all this stuff. And I was chasing the vanity metrics of the subscribers and the views and all of this stuff. And then when I started rewatching my own videos and saying, hey, that's not me, and I started being authentic and genuine, that's when people started to get to know the real me and actually started to build that deeper, more intimate connection. And that leads to what has helped me kind of do well on YouTube and leveraging video content, which is depth and clarity and genuinely wanting to make an impact on people's business. I'm a huge advocate of it's not just what you do, it's how you do it. A lot of people are putting out videos because a coach, mentor, or somebody on YouTube told them to go put out videos. How intentional are they with the value in those videos? I can record a 20-minute video, and if I look at that video, because I rewatch 100% of my own videos, even to this day, and I get to the end of that video and say, damn, dude, like this isn't going to make an impact on somebody in the way that I would like to, I'm not uploading that video, right? I genuinely want to make sure that if you're coming to any piece of content that I'm putting out there, you are going to leave with not just the answer you were looking for, but more than you were expecting and exceeding your expectations. So I think that comes from a place of genuinely wanting to make an impact, not dangling a carrot and saying, I'm going to get you curious, but in order to get some answers, you got to go buy my program, pay for my coaching, or join my brokerage, right? You can learn everything that I have for free on my channel, right? 500 and some videos later. So I think that depth is really, really important. That goes back to leading by example and being a practitioner. I think you know this more than anybody, Josh. You see a lot of people that are talking about social media. They bought somebody else's course, ripped it off, regurgitated it, put their own spin on it, and is like, hey, here's how to leverage YouTube. They've got like 500 subscribers and they can't get a client from YouTube, right? And for me, we're all in a position on this call where we could essentially retire right now if we wanted to based on income. But when we start looking at it, we are all working harder than we ever have because of the fact that we want to lead by example. And I think when people can see that I practice what I preach at the highest level, that starts to instill the trust that I'm not just talking based on theory, but I do this myself all day, every day. And I think that's one of the best parts about creating influence, is being able to show people that you're going to run the show and lead by example every step of the way, right? Speed of the leader, speed of the pack. It's important to show them the steps and actually walk them yourself. So I think those are some of the most important aspects from my perspective. And the last thing that I want to touch on that is showing the humble side of you, but also showing the personal side. A lot of people, when they start to build momentum, they're just showing the cars, the houses, the watches, the big speaking gigs, all of this stuff. They're not showing the true self. They're not showing their family. They're not showing what genuinely matters. And that creates disconnect, because it's like these big influencers you see online and you're like, how can I live that life? But one of the things that I think I've done okay with is that I'm still here in shorts and a t-shirt. I'm still here hanging out with my family every Sunday. I'm still here taking you on that journey, showing you that I'm no different than you. I've just been more consistent than you have with the activities I tell you to do for 5 years, right? And I think in order to create that intimacy and that trust, you have to show people the real you, not the Instagram you, the real you of who you are behind the scenes. And that's what gets you to the point where when people meet you in person, or any of us on this call, they feel like they know you because they've been on that journey with you.
Yeah, man, that I gotta say, Mike, and you do, I think that's one of the reasons why we're so connected, is we are that same type of people. I'm not a suit and tie guy, and I'll never will be, to put on some facade. But you know, I want to also reiterate off of what Mike said. If anybody was really listening, this guy just doesn't go through the motions. He's continually evolving. He watched himself. And I've had conversations with Mike. When people see him now, they just think, well, that guy's got his shit together. He's good on the camera. And I always loved Mike telling me that story, that he was never that way. He had to learn that. He had to go through being uncomfortable to make himself comfortable. But that is a true successful person that doesn't think they arrived. Because I always say you got to embrace the process. It's a journey. He doesn't go, I arrived. He's constantly looking to make himself better, being consistent. And I will tell you, I know you used the word, there's a lot of people that duplicate and you're creating more competition. Dude, you have no competition. Nobody's you. And that's how I always looked at things, is nobody's I can tell you everything I do. First and foremost, very few will even do it, because you can't outwork me. So anyway, so my core value is really simple. And I shouldn't even be alive today based off of my past and what I've done, the life I lived. God saved me for him. And I tell people, and I let people truly understand, look, I believe in Jesus Christ. He's my savior. But I do not force my faith on anybody. That is not my job. I don't judge people. I love everyone, but I'm called, and I'm here today alive for one reason and one reason only, and that's to glorify him. I'm called to be a servant leader. Now, I still live in my flesh. I'm still a human being, but my core value comes from, at the end of the day, you know, me and my wife, we always together, we pray together, is, Lord, how could I be a servant leader with the gifts you blessed me with? Not always great at that, but everything's got to get put under that funnel. And it's one of the reasons why I was able to close down my brokerage, because if I focused on the money, if I focused on the, look at me, I'm the owner of the largest company. Every time I walked in the room, they go, that's Chuck, he runs one of the biggest brokerages in the country. I got rid of my ego and said, Lord, how do I serve you by being a blessing to others? And eXp Realty was the only answer. That if I was to reduce my pride and ego and my pocketbook, and take that risk. Now, although it paid off for me financially, that wasn't the motivational point. So I'm called to be a servant leader. The other thing I like to tell people is, when I talk about business, I talk about life. I don't believe in this concept, work-life balance. I think it's horseshit. There is no work-life balance. Everything is called life. And when I look at it from that perspective, when I teach people, to be successful, the first thing I focused on, and Josh, me and you've had this conversation, how's your marriage? How's your home life? Because if you don't got that shit together, you ain't getting anything together. If you're going home to a spouse and all you're doing is fighting, or there's no trust there and there's aggravation, how do you expect to focus on your business? How do you expect to operate at the highest level when you're sitting there leaving a house, just had to fight with your wife or your kids or whatever? You can't operate. The reason why I'm so successful is because God opened my eyes to him, and God opened my eyes to who my wife is to me. And we have the perfect marriage. There's no stress in it, zero. And I live by Proverbs 27:17, as iron sharpens iron, one man sharpens another. God's word is crystal clear how to be successful in this world. If I'm going to be a blessing to others and pour into each other's, God says you will reap what you sow. So that's my core values.
Yep. Love it. All right. So then next question for you guys. All right. So whether somebody's, EXP or one of the alternative companies out there looking to build a downline, or whether they're, traditional team trying to build at a different brokerage, trying to build a traditional team or a brokerage, what are, some of the top key, most important things when it comes to scaling a big organization? Maybe we'll start with you on this one, Chuck.
Well, I have the answer to that because I proved it by building one of the biggest brokerages.
Yep.
And the way I speak sometimes, if people on the surface don't really comprehend and understand, it sounds like a negative thing, but here's what it is. And I've been teaching team leaders this the whole time. It's a sheer numbers game. Look, it's just math. It's sheer numbers. Stop overthinking it. Stop overthinking and going, I'm going to look for the producers. I want the people who are the workers. Guess what? You'll drive yourself crazy. Number one is, if somebody's not successful at a company here, and you go, well, I don't want them because they're not doing the numbers. Well, then you have very little esteem in yourself, because maybe they're in the wrong environment. Put them in the right environment. The other thing is, like I said, when I talk sheer numbers, it's a numbers game. Most agents don't sell a lot of real estate. So if you had 10 agents, let's just say you're going for all top producers, but it might be a 5-agent team that are doing 10 to 15 deals a year, or you got a 50-agent team that are doing 3 to 4 deals a year, where you making more money. It's all leverage. You see, the reason why a lot of people aren't successful from the numbers game is 2 reasons. One is it gets monotonous because maybe you're bringing on 5 and then losing 2. And after a while, mentally, it starts to burn you out because you get frustrated instead of looking at it as a journey. That's what I did. Look, I might have had 900 agents, but we were also losing 200 agents a year. I was just recruiting more than I lost. And I didn't lose them because I sucked. I lost them because, look, a lot of agents get out of the business. They don't make it. So when I say the industry is a broken model from a standpoint of building, here's what I mean by it. It's all you. When you go to EXP, you multiply by using leverage. So yes, I'll keep bringing agents in and I'll keep losing agents, but not only do the agents that stick, they start to build and they start to go through the same process I do. It becomes this law of multiplying. So the answer is simple. Somebody wants to build, it's sheer numbers. End of story.
Yep. Yeah. One of my mentors, he's got a big sign above his office that just says the path is in the math.
Yeah, I love it. So I can kind of touch on that, and I've got a couple things to kind of complement that, and looking at how we've done well, because when you look at any brokerage, any team, any structure, growth is very easy. Retention is a different ballgame, right? And as Chuck kind of alluded to, is you see a lot of people that don't follow some of the principles that I'm going to unpack here, and they are losing more than they're gaining, which is why they've plateaued or they're net negative. So when you look at any team, traditional, modern, whatever the situation is, cloud-based, there's a couple principles that are super important to me. Number one, first and foremost, always forever, is culture, right? it's very difficult to leave a friend. It's very easy to leave a brokerage or a company, right? So creating that intimacy within your team, your revenue share organization, your brokerage is so important for the retention and the overall excitement to being there, because when people are excited about being there and they know how they fit into the overall goal of the group or the brokerage or the team, they're more passionate, which means that if you've got 50 people or 500 or 5,000 people, if you can get 50 people to each get excited about the opportunity and put one more hour per day into their business, you've got 50 more hours per day going into the growth of your overall business because they're excited about being a part of something that they're proud of. So that's one of the big things. Another thing, which is part number 2, is if it doesn't duplicate, it doesn't matter. And this is a really important principle to me because I've obviously seen pretty decent success within leveraging YouTube, but if people are coming to me, to my organization, to learn how to leverage video and YouTube, and none of them can achieve similar results to what I have, it's deemed effectively useless, right? Because the whole goal is to be able to align with people like you, myself, Chuck, and be able to emulate the results that we've had. But if none of them can do that, there's no essence of beauty of them partnering with us. So the duplicatable aspect of it is so important because people are joining you for a reason. If they can achieve that reason or see possibility in that, they're going to leave, right? I think another thing is leading by example, right? A lot of people you see at these brokerages, whether it be cloud-based, especially the cloud-based ones, they've achieved a certain amount of success and then they check out and they start to, just create that distance. And when you create distance between the leader, whether it be the broker, the team leader, or the revenue share sponsor, and the agent, there starts to create tension and animosity. But when people see that I'm still working 16, 18 hours a day, just as much or more than they are, it creates a level playing field. So it doesn't create this distance that, oh, I'm making Mike this money. I'm making this team leader, this broker owner, all this money. I feel that tension and that animosity. I'm building their life. I'm still in the trenches with you, leading by example, right? So that's part number 3. And the 4th thing that I think is very important is that this is a talent development business, right? If you're a team leader, a broker owner, or a revenue share sponsor, your business is partially attracting. The real beauty in the business is being able to create talent out of nothing, right? So if you look at the people that have thrived with your brokerages, Josh, Chuck's group, my group, I've taken brand new agents that most people would count out because they're a new agent with no experience and turn them into $1-2 million per year producers in their very first year by leveraging duplicatable strategies that have been proven to work, right? So instead of discounting people when people come to you based on their experience, I look at their traits. Are they driven? Are they disciplined? Are they consistent? What is their history? Are they an athlete? Right? Are they from the military? Do they embody traits that if you apply them in the right way, they will see success based on following that duplicatable, repeatable process? So for me, the real way to win at this business is to develop talent, which leads to the final thing that I want to unpack. As these numbers, again, as these brokerages are just math, and in essence, as Chuck alluded to, you have to learn to save the people swimming to the boat, not the ones swimming away from it, right? Everybody wants your time. Very few people have earned your time. So when you start looking at this, it's kind of like the book, The E-Myth, where you have to start with the end in mind. Well, if you join a brokerage like this and you want to have 1,000 agents one day, well, you need to treat your business today as if you have 1,000 agents, which is I can't, with 2,000 agents, answer 5-minute questions every day across 2,000 people. I couldn't exist, right? So you have to be able to be resourceful, independent, and understand that you have to be, as Chuck alluded to, very cautious of how you allocate your time and not getting sucked into trying to please everybody, which is impossible, but rather invest that time into the ones that are putting in the work into their business.
Mhm.
Yep. Such powerful stuff. And one of the things that you said there, Mike, about, the culture, it's hard to leave friends, easy to leave, a brokerage. Right. And I can just say this because, I've known you guys for a long time, Chuck, I've been in your offices over the years. I've, hung out with your agents, from both of you guys. I have agents that are with your organizations that are near downlines that I speak to on a consistent basis, whether through the podcast or whatever. And I'll tell you, every time I have a conversation with them, it's, man, I love Chuck. Man, I love Mike. You know, it's not a, man, I joined their organization. I can never get a hold of them. And I get there's parameters there that you have with that, but it's never a thing of shit. I know the name, but I don't even know who he is. It's, man, I love them. They're so amazing, right? And that's that culture that you guys have built by pouring into them and allowing them those tools that, you know, both of you just talked about. So I wanted to bring that up because it's, you know, I think that's something that gets overlooked so much, and you guys have figured out a way to go out there and create that along with bringing in the numbers. All right, so next question here for you guys. Right, it's a noisy world out there when we look at, we're in this crazy attention economy. We're not just competing against other, you know, team leaders or broker owners or whomever. It's like, dude, we're competing against Coca-Cola. We're like everything, right? What type of effort? Because in order to build a big influence, like you gotta get attention, you gotta get awareness. What type of effort does it take in this noisy world that we're in today to be able to get that attention and awareness so you can then develop that influence?
Yeah, I can touch on that. And I think, you know, it's kind of the same principles that we talked about, but I'll go a layer deeper. The first one, and this is something that is so near and dear to my heart that I don't think a lot of people talk about, which is the concept of being unbiased. And this is something that had completely changed my business, which is that, you know, if you want to create influence, if you want to build authentic relationships with your community and build a true community or movement, you have to come at things from an unbiased lens. So when I'm putting out a YouTube, for example, anybody that would have heard earlier in this conversation that have rewatched my own videos, as somebody that is, you know, at the position I am in my business, anybody is going to look at that and say, well, that's inefficient. That's a waste of time. But there's value in the inefficiencies. And this is what has led to me to grow. So what I'm saying here is that you have to be able to put yourself in the consumer's shoes in order to grow and build those relationships. So whenever I'm looking at YouTube, for example, if I'm about to put out a video and I take my thumbnail and let's say it's about YouTube for Realtors, I'm going to search YouTube for Realtors on YouTube. And then I'm going to put my thumbnail beside the top 3 ranking ones and say, unbiasedly, if I didn't know who I was, what I've achieved, or what I've done, would I genuinely click on my own thumbnail versus the top 3 currently ranking? And if the answer is no, how can you expect anybody else to? And then I will watch the top 3 currently ranking and then my own video and say, are their videos more clear, concise, credible, compelling, depth, clarity, right? And if the answer is no, how can I expect anybody else to engage with my video versus the ones that are top 3 ranking? And that goes with every aspect of your business and every aspect of influence. Is the essence of growing your influence and growing your audience is a byproduct of people who don't know who you are, what you've achieved, or what you've done following you. So you can't assume that just because you're Chuck Fazio or Joshua Smith and you're a fucking industry rock star, that suddenly people are obligated to consume your content. That is looking at it biasly, right? So for me, the easiest way to get outside of, you know, the concept of struggling to grow and actually building influence in this clouded, chaotic, cluttered world is just put yourself in the shoes of the consumer and say, if somebody came across this and this was their first experience, their first impression of me, is it the impression I want to leave? And is it going to get me to the end result that I want, which is either leads or agents or brand awareness, whatever the situation is the outcome, the byproduct of that piece of content I just put out? And as soon as you can start, you put yourself in this unbiased lens, your leads will convert higher, your videos will grow faster, you will get more agents, more deals, whatever your goal is in business or life, that is going to be what comes as a byproduct of it. So that genuinely is one of my best pieces of advice when it comes to standing out in a cluttered world, looking from other people's perspectives.
Yeah, that's great. You know, there is a lot of noise out there, and there's a lot of platforms this noise comes from. I think we're living in a society that's being bombarded right now. But if you typically look at the noise, what I look at, the noise is toxic. The noise is negative. The noise is victim mentality. That's, if you, I mean, just look at the news. That's what they focus on. And what happens is, I don't believe we're wired that way. We're wired to love and to care, and people genuinely want that. So what I do is I say, create a different noise. because the different noise will stand out. You know, it's once again, biblical concept. Darkness cannot exist when light is in the room. So the noise that I look at, that I want to put out there is, like Mike said, being authentic, who I am. I genuinely care about people. And so what I put out there is not toxic stuff, is talking about my marriage, showing who I really am behind the scenes, and making my life and who I am real, where people go, okay, Chuck, we see you at events. We see you always with your wife when you're at events, and you talk like you have the perfect marriage. Well, guess what we do now is we show them we have the perfect marriage. We talk about the same problems that we deal with, that everybody else deals with, but how we overcome it to create that perfect marriage. Same thing with business. We deal with the same stuff. Don't get me wrong. There are days I look at my wife and I go, why the hell are we doing this shit? I want to just go on an island and by myself. So when they look at successful people, they just think we got our shit together. No, we're more consistent. We're more persistent. We're more driven. We have dreams that we're going after. We have visions we're looking to fulfill. We have a mission of our why that's keeping us focused. I want people to understand, like Mike said, perfect. You nailed it perfectly. We're no different than anyone else. I can't stand people who aren't humble. I can't stand people who reach a level of celebrity that can't be in the room with you, or they have to leave, or they don't want to sign or take a picture with you. I'm like, dude, are you so full of yourself that you think you're any better than me? We all bleed the same way. We're all leaving this earth one day. So that's what I want to do. Look, can I change the world? No, I'm not going to change the world, but I can change my world. And I can change other people who want to be in my world, who don't want to be in that toxic environment. I physically cannot be around negative people. Now, be clear, I'm not saying they're bad people, but I'm constantly living in a state of being driven. I'm on a mission of being positive, of being going after what I want to go after. That somebody wants to sit and bitch about the economy and bitch about the presidents and look, I'm not disagreeing. I just don't want to bitch about it because you're just sucking my energy. So how do you break through the noise? Create a positive energy, because people really do want to be around that.
Yeah, nah, that's such powerful stuff, man. I love it, you guys. So then, when you're creating this, influence, this, these big followings, that you guys have in order to build these big organizations, along with that does come a lot of haters.
Really? I don't know. I've never experienced that.
Yeah, I have somebody almost employed full time just to go out there and manage all the hate comments. Right. So, what do you guys do to deal with that? Because man, it can be, and maybe it is, maybe it isn't for you guys, but for most, man, it's very difficult. You're trying to go out there and put out these positive messages. And, the other day, as an example, I put something out there and somebody, commented like, put a hat on. Nobody wants to see that ugly ass bald head, and I'm like, okay, you're a peach, dude, right?
Yeah, right.
But it's like, you just get people that just try to tear you down. Now we're in this world of these,
I'll remove that
cowards.
Josh, sorry about that.
Yeah. How do you guys deal with that?
Prayer, lots of prayer. Look, it doesn't feel good. We're human beings. It doesn't feel good to be attacked. Josh, my nature of my past, and so does Mike. By nature, I'm a rageful person by nature, by human nature. Working in nightclubs my whole life and being around that environment, I lived and breathed violence, my whole upbringing. So for me, my initial reaction is not always a pleasant one in my mind. And so prayer is a big deal to me. The Spirit calms me. But how do I really get past it? Because you are right. Look, and I look at it from a standpoint of they don't know me. Look, there was another broker owner, Josh, that you know very well, that when I closed my brokerage down, literally attacked me to my agents behind my back. And I know of him, I've met him in person, but he doesn't personally know me. And one of my big producers, Zach Cates, you talk about loyalty, because he was one of them, reached out to the guy and said, how dare you speak to my friend like that when you don't even really know him? Now, my flesh gets upset, but so here's where I'm going with it. I've come to realize that the people that attack you don't know you. They don't really know you. And more than likely, they're miserable. So I actually feel bad for them. You know, God says, pray for your enemies. And it becomes liberating when you can get to that. You know, my wife is always full of knowledge, and she taught me years ago, pick and choose your battles. And that, every time that happens, it's her voice going, pick and choose your battles. And guess what? You start to realize most of these battles are worthless to fight.
Yeah.
And you actually have a peace with yourself when you do that. Somebody had posted on Facebook, it was probably about a year ago, and they said, this paper is white. And they said, watch how many people will have a negative comment about that. Like just a stupid post. Somebody will always find the negative to point out. We did, I'll touch on one more thing that was actually hilarious. We have 2 stupid dogs, and we had one of our dogs, the golden doodle, painted like a giraffe. The freaking thing looked like a damn giraffe. It was hilarious. It got all this, we posted it. Do you know how many people ripped us a new one saying, how dare you do that to a dog? Almost to like the dog could look in the mirror and feel humiliated. Unbelievable. So anyway, I pick and choose my battles.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I've got a couple of them, because especially being, you know, so active on social, I hear it all. And I want to unpack 3 things. And I actually shared this at the recent event that I spoke at with Chuck, which is one of the worst negative comments I ever got, which was in 2019 after a year putting up videos. The final statement was, you shouldn't be licensed anymore, and tore into my family and to me and to everybody. And to me, what I did with that is I took a screenshot, put it on a folder that has been on an external hard drive ever since, and
Love
said,
that,
one day this is going to be a part of my story. One day I'm going to share this with people and say, hey, I've taken the bullets too. I still take the bullets, but let me explain one of the things. So the first thing is that that's going to be part of a beautiful part of your story, right? Your come up story, your comeback story, whatever that looks like. Just the nature of receiving that and the perseverance to push through is a beautiful part of your story. The second thing that I always use is fear shifting, right? So, you know, one of the things I always allude to is like, let's say you're going down an alley and a wolf is chasing you this way, you're going to run away from the wolf. And if you turn a corner and there's a fucking lion there, you're probably going to run away from the lion toward the wolf, right? It's a bigger fear, right? So for me, I look at those negative comments and I say, okay, that's a fear. That's a negative. I really don't like how that makes me feel. But how does not retiring my parents make me feel? How does not building the life of my dreams make me feel? How does not being able to live my fullest potential make me feel? Which is a bigger fear, right? And to me, the bigger fear is not achieving my potential because of letting other people get in the way of that. So I just shift the fear and say, okay, that sucks. I'm going to get upset about that for 5 minutes, but if it's not going to matter in 5 years, don't spend more than 5 minutes worrying about it. And the other aspect, Chuck kind of beautifully alluded to it, which is that is the nature of a negative comment is somebody projecting their insecurities on you. So can you imagine how miserable, pathetic, and disgusting of a life that you live by getting excitement, joy, and pleasure out of trying to tear somebody else down? I just feel bad for them. I'm like, if that's what you get excited about and that makes your day, go do it all day long. I'll take your bullets until I die, right? But that's a terrible life that I would never want to be a part of. So it is what it is. But I think, you know, as you start to pull this concept full circle, you're going to get negative comments forever. All of us on here have achieved some level of success. You guys far greater than I have. But the thing that I want to really echo here is that for me, I use it as fuel to go outwork everybody and prove what I'm capable of doing. So that person that wrote that negative comment that is on one of the top teams in my local market, I checked his MLS the other day. He's got one listing at $200,000 a pop, right? He's out there touring listings. I'm buying multi-million-dollar listings, right? So when you look at this, I just use it as fuel to say, one day I'm going to prove you wrong. But the bigger thing that I want people to understand here is that we all still get negative comments, but the majority of them are silent. In the beginning, they're going to be public. They're going to comment it on your stuff. They're going to say it behind the scenes. Once you get to the point where you've relentlessly proved your consistent work ethic, it gets to the point where you look like a complete idiot to write something negative on any three of our things. They're still going to talk about it behind the scenes, but it's going to get to the point where it's not going to be public anymore. Right. So when you demonstrate your success, it's one of those typical quotes, right? You can love me, you can hate me, but you can't not respect me. That's all that I'm looking to do, is prove the relentless work ethic that you're going to look like an idiot if you write something negative on my videos, because by the way, that intimate audience we talked about is going to light you up if you write something negative on my videos. And I think that's a beautiful place to be, by just leading by example.
Yep. Yep. Powerful stuff. All right. So, both of you guys have discovered the right leverage vehicle for you. Speaking of leverage, like what power has identifying the right leverage vehicle for you? And what advice would you give for people that are looking for, because leverage, there's only so many hours in a day, and I look at this of like, dude, Elon Musk or Warren Buffett doesn't necessarily, okay, maybe Elon Musk works more hours than all of us, but it's like Warren Buffett has the same amount of hours in a day that we do. He just found a better leverage vehicle, and I didn't really discover this until, a few years ago. It took me about 15 years of my entrepreneurial career to really kind of start figuring that out. What power is identifying the right leverage vehicle for you? And what advice would you give to others, to go out there and identify the best leverage vehicle for them?
Yeah, I can unpack that and then pass it over to Chuck. So I think, when there's kind of two different avenues here. And the first being on the production side, right? Leverage is imperative to growth, because as you alluded to, with only so much time of the day, if your only focus is traditional prospecting, which is necessary, it's a must, it's essential for building your foundation. But if that is your only focus and you're prospecting at best, like I did, 3 hours a day, 7 days a week, your business is only growing 3 hours a day, 7 days a week. Well, if you're putting 12 hours a day into your business, you're growing a quarter of the time. Right. So for me, leveraging things like what you're incredible at, Josh, which is, Facebook ads and what I've started becoming good at, which is Facebook ads, YouTube, things like that, is that it's conversations at scale. Right. That's all that leads is conversations at scale. And the more leverage you can create, if you properly optimize a video, it's door knocking or cold calling 24/7, 365. Right. So that allows you to buy your time back in order to reallocate it into things like follow-up, customer journey, and all of the things that go into building that scalable side of your business. So I think from a production perspective, if you don't find ways to create leverage, you will forever be chasing the next deal and being frustrated and get burnt out forever, right? So it's imperative to build a top producing business. Now, on the brokerage side, I actually just recorded the short form video yesterday talking about this, which is the importance of choosing the right brokerage. And one of the things, the first point that I said in the 3 points was that your brokerage is not going to make you, but it can make a drastic difference in how you get compensated and the return on your time invested into your business, right? So I think it's really important to say, okay, I was previously at a traditional local boutique brokerage, independent, and I was building my personal brand, which allowed me to get clients locally. I was putting out ads, which allowed me to get clients locally. And whenever I closed a deal, I got commission. Well, when I started looking at this other opportunity, like there are many of now, I started saying, well, okay, I could still build my brand, but now globally. I can still run ads, but now globally. I can still do deals, but get commission and stock. And you start to look at one of the principles that is near and dear to my heart is that every successful entrepreneur looks at how they can get compensated as much as humanly possible for the time they put into their business. And for me, the vehicle had to align with my goals, which was not just money freedom, but time freedom. So I think going back to your question of how do people audit or identify the right type of leverage, I think the essence of that question boils down to you need to get clarity on what you're actually looking to do with your business and your life, right? Because that was where I fell victim to in 2019 is typical to, when I was an engineer, I thought the only way was to climb the corporate ladder. And then I got into real estate. I thought the only way was to sling deals until I die. And then I started having an open mind to new opportunities. And that's what allowed me to say, hey, maybe there's a different vehicle that will give me time freedom, that will allow me to leverage my brand on a bigger capacity, that will allow me to get compensated in other mediums for the time I'm putting into my business. So I think leverage is essential, but most people won't take the time to think about what their goals are, the lifestyle they want to build, and is the vehicle they're using to build it even capable of getting them there, right? So to me, it's imperative, but that's the questions that I ask myself and looking at how I can align with that right type of leverage.
Yeah, that good stuff there, Mike. The one thing I could say is, we could be our own worst enemy and being skeptical and things. When I made the decision to close the brokerage down, I didn't do it on a whim. I did my homework. I'm not a book smart person. I'm not one that likes school at all. I'm a doer. I learn by doing and learning as you go. And, I also believe God's given me a gift to be a visionary and to see future. I mean, like you talked about, Josh, I see things that just make come to fruition. The thing that really hit me, the way I looked at eXp Realty, is way different than probably most people look at it. Because I kept saying, why would I, as the owner of the brokerage, close my brokerage down and then go to another brokerage as an agent? What mind shift I had from a business standpoint is I said, wait a minute, I'm not closing my brokerage down to go to another brokerage. I'm closing my brokerage down to build my business on their platform. So although, yes, they're a brokerage, we're in a technology world. I look at history and the industrial revolutions that keep hitting radically change the way life is done, radically. But what happens is us human beings can't understand when something radically changes. You have to have the foresight to see the vision. Real estate industry is an archaic industry that has not been changed, that has not been put up with the times of the changing world we live in. We live in a technology world where real estate never grasped that. eXp was the first one to actually grasp that. So first and foremost, if you're going to eXp Realty, don't look at it as you're choosing to leave your brokerage to go to another brokerage. You're leaving your brokerage to do the business you do on a new technology platform that you can build your own business with any way you want, given opportunities you can't get anywhere else. Opportunities, one, owning stock and ownership in the company that you're doing the business at. Number two, you have an opportunity to build a business if you want, like a real estate brokerage. Yeah, hold on 1 minute. Sorry, I told you I pain in the ass dogs.
Oh, you're good, man.
So is building a business, like if you want to own your own brokerage, leveraging their platform. So when I talk about the technology world, you see, here's what I want people to understand and look at. Get out of your own way and sit and go, listen, the traditional way of doing business is slowly changing. And what they want to look at is, look at companies like Amazon. Look, Amazon was one of the first to bring products online, killing it. Everybody else is falling into suit. Is Amazon worried? Absolutely not. What basically is happening, every other business out there that's doing business this way is actually saying, yeah, Amazon, you got that shit right from the beginning. When they interviewed the owner of Uber, and they go, what do you think about Lyft as your competition? And they look, they go, Lyft ain't not our competition. They just understand the model. They're just in the same world we're in. But our platform and our technology could help us grow all over the world. They're not our competition. If you look at their finances, they're not even close. So when we're looking at these other platforms come up, I embrace it. I'm like, finally, people are getting it. Things are changing. It doesn't mean we're worse because we were first. We're like the Amazon. Our technology, our metaverse, we're all over the world. These companies can't even go there. They don't have the platform to do it, but good for them. They understand that the industry's changing. And that's what I want people to truly understand. Get out of your own way. Stop listening to the narrative. I used to sit and say, when we closed down our brokerage, Keller Williams bashed us. Like the recruiters pounced all over us and goes, don't go to that company. They're a pyramid scheme. They're going out of business. They have lawsuits. It's fear-based. It's fear-mongering. But the problem is people feed into that bullshit. So if I'm an agent today, I should be opening my eyes to stop being at these companies that were built in the 1970s, 80s, and 90s, because you cannot build a skyscraper on a foundation that was built for a single family home. It's the same thing. You cannot go into the future building on a foundation that wasn't designed to be in the future. Gary Keller's a very smart man. He understood that. That's why he created that model with the teams that can go all over the country. But the problem is he was building it on the wrong model. Can't build it that way. His concept, his thought process was right. He knows what we're doing is right. Unfortunately, the model, the foundation is archaic. And because they're all franchise offices, he could never do what we do.
Yeah. So you said something interesting when you first started talking about this, Chuck, where you said, we can become our own worst enemies. And I got to imagine for you, largest single office, highest producing, in the country, 900 agents, one location, 900 plus agents, one location. I mean, been to your office building, most beautiful real estate office building I've ever been into in my entire life. What was that internal battle like? Because you mentioned, again, we get in our own way. And where I'm going with this is, man, I mean, maybe somebody is having their ego stifle them. Maybe the best move for them is to, join the EXP model and not continue experiencing the resistance that they're experiencing, or maybe it is to go join that franchise or whatever, but it's like they're struggling with that because they're so attached to what they built, what they want to build, that original vision. Because I'm sure that you struggled with a lot of that through this decision.
Enormous. I mean, you got to understand that could have been financial suicide for me, like beyond anybody's imagination, because I still have a 21,000 square foot building that was being paid for by the real estate business. But I want to allude to Mike's comment because it can work in the same context when he was talking about naysayers and then looking at what fear is worse. And he's like buying a home for his parents and living the life that he wants to live. And like I said, I'm not a planner. I'm not one that plans my year or I'm just a doer. And the concept of, financial freedom, I've always heard. But then more recently, when I was at the beginning, you start to hear time freedom and location freedom. And you're like, what the heck is that? And I'm like, wait a minute, you mean I could not only make the money I want, but do what I want to do, when I want to do it, where I want. I go live in Italy for a month. So based off of what Mike said, this is where anybody should be looking at. Number one is, if there's any piece of your life that you're not achieving, being able to buy a home, being able to pay for, when my dad was dying, to be able to pay for hospice, to be in the house and not have to put him into a hospital that he did not want to go in and die in, to be able to afford to do that, to most people, they go, well, that's a dream. They don't think they can get there. Look, I was broke at one point. So what you have to do is go where you're at now. Is there any possibility going to get you to there? And if the answer is no, well, then you need to seriously get out of your comfort zone. You might feel comfortable, but there's some sort of angst that is not comfortable. So to answer your question, how do you close down the brokerages? When you look at it from a standpoint of we're massively successful, we're making a lot of money, but we were miserable. Why were we miserable? Because in order to keep making more money to achieve what we want, we had to bring on more agents, do more deals, which brings on more lawsuits, more aggravation. We might have been financially good, but time freedom, hell no. Our phones were blowing up every day, 7 days a week by agents, by lawsuits, by problems. If I went away to Italy for a few weeks, guess what? I'm on the phone. You need to come back. We're having problems with this. So I wasn't achieving the level of success. So we had to make a decision, go, if we continue down this path, would we be completely happy? Or could this, remember, there ain't no guarantees, there ain't the magic pill, or could this platform get us to that goal? Couldn't get us there. And I have to tell you, it was 6 months of literally on my knees praying, God, show me something, make this reality. I am not an anxious person, but I'm going to tell you for 6 months, I could not sleep. I had anxiety attacks. I'm making that, if I made that decision, would we look back, go, were we the dumbest idiots in the world? But you know what? God made it clear. I told you about, can I help other people's lives? Could I change their life? I could not change someone's life running my brokerage. I could not. But this company, I could literally say, I changed that person's life. Where they're coming to me going, they're achieving the same level of success I am. I couldn't do that where I am. So that's how I viewed the whole picture.
Yep. Removed ego out of the way and really analyzed it and love it, man. So then, all right. So these last 2 questions I have for you guys are you know, I guess you could say they're EXP.
Well, maybe Mike might have something he wants to throw in on that.
Yeah, I like the quickest thing I can touch on that is, you know, and I want to make sure that we're respectful of Josh's time, but looking at, you know, I joined a sponsor at this company that has never sold a home in his life. And I was the #1 producer in my past brokerage. Right. And I think a lot of people let ego get in the way, ego and emotion. Right. And as Chuck's shirt says, it's just math. You can't argue math with ego and emotion. So for me, a lot of people are turning a blind eye to a whole slew of opportunities because they're letting their ego and emotion keep them closed-minded instead of saying, hey, maybe the math does work out. Because I think one of the concepts that's important in entrepreneurship is any successful entrepreneur will look at a proven exponentially growing opportunity and at least validate it and get the right information to make an educated decision. What I find a lot of people are doing that's holding them back from actually achieving their success is they're making assumptive decisions based on and fragmented information, staying closed-minded and turning a blind eye to it. And I did that for 2.5 years, right? So I just think it's really important to say, okay, maybe, this sponsor hasn't done what I've done, but they've got the vehicle that I'm looking for. They have the personality that I align with, and they've got resources that complement my weaknesses. And I just think it's really important, especially during uncertain times, to stay open-minded and at least validate things as to whether or not it's for you. And if it's not for you, that's all good. But at least you've got the right information as to give context as to why.
Yep. Love it. Powerful stuff. All right. So, these last couple questions that I have for you guys are going to be a little bit more EXP specific, but, obviously there's a lot of EXP, other style models that are out there, with the downline and the ability to go out there and have revenue share, but also, I think that these can really apply to anybody, because this really comes down to mentorship and again, building, recruiting, but I'm going to keep them, I guess, EXP specific, because that's, where you guys are at. And these are questions I get all the time from people that are either at EXP or that are considering joining EXP. So the first one is, now I could be wrong. We all know each other enough. You guys can tell me if I'm full of shit, if I'm wrong here, but from an outsider looking in, at least the conversations that I've had, it seems that, so much of people's experience with the success that they achieve when they join EXP, a lot of it can be due to their upline. With aligning those strategic partnerships. And yeah, they could be resourceful and go out there and get other help, but it seems to make, a difference if you're strategic with this. So if somebody is considering, joining EXP and they're looking at, like, what would you recommend to consider and how to identify that right upline, that right support system for you and your business?
Chuck?
So I think first and foremost is, I know my personality. I want to do business with people that I like and people that I could trust. And to me, that's very important. The thing with me is, one of my good buddies and partners, Curtis Johnson, always had a great connection with him. Josh, you know him well. I didn't look at my upline as the pinnacle of me making a decision. And here's what I mean by that. I'm different. I know how to build businesses. I've lived on an island, my company. When you own a brokerage, there's nobody there to help you. Nobody. You don't have meetings with other broker owners that share their ideas with you and tell you what to do. I figured every little thing out on my own. Everything. Me and my wife built it from the ground up. So for me, it's a little different because I came over 100% going, I will make it or die 100% because of me. Now, if I got some help, bonus, but I don't come over for that reason. But I also understand there's a lot of people out there, most of them, that don't have the business knowledge of running a brokerage or the business. I mean, in my career, I've overseen over 40,000 homes sold and 9 billion in production. We just operated at a ridiculous level. That was normal for me and Angela. But I will tell you, when I look at people like Mike Sherrard, that I get blessed because what this company did for me was literally open my eyes to go in. I cannot and I should not be an island anymore. My wife, look, I could live my whole life with my wife on an island, but our whole joke is we're an island. We've made all the decisions, everything lived and died by us. I never networked with anybody. I'm actually an introvert, even though everybody thinks I'm an extrovert. People just suck my energy, but I'm always in with people. But here's where I was going with it. EXP showed me that being around like-minded people will exponentially increase not only your business, but your knowledge and your peace of mind. Meeting Mike, I would have never met Mike ever if I didn't move to EXP Realty. And I am connected with these agents that are like my brothers. They're like I told Mike, anytime you need something, pick up the phone call. And we're in 2 different organizations. But I will tell you, there are certain people in these organizations that run their groups, their downlines, like a business. So what I mean by that is, I actually have hired staff. I have a training system, a coaching system that I put people through. When I made the decision, I said, I'm going to run my group. And it's like I'm building my own company on that platform. I already proved I could do it. You get someone like Mike Sherrard, who like he said, opened my eyes. I look at Mike and I go, okay, this is how I train. This is how I coach. This is how I help agents succeed. And it's nothing like what Mike does. It's insane. There's multiple paths to success. So what I say is, look at who you will want to align with. Do you like what they do? Do you feel comfortable? Are they going to be there to help the coach? If you're a social media guru and you love YouTube and you love, man, and if you don't join Mike, I tell, look, we were at a meeting the other day. Somebody was considering go. I looked at him, I go, you've got to be crazy not to join Mike. This guy's got everything you need to be successful if you plugged in. So really, to sum it up, number one, all the people in this company, we really do collaborate. But yes, some downlines can make a difference. Unfortunately, and this is not to beat up EXP, this could be any company, anywhere. I have talked to people that are in other downlines who met me, who go, how do I get with you? Because I don't even know who's my upline. And look, once again, don't be a victim. You don't need an upline to be successful at EXP. But if you are exploring and it is important to you, align with someone, what they're doing works for you, and who you like and trust. That's the best answer I can give.
I love that, man. And again, like it's so tough to follow that because everything Chuck says is so true. But to really look at it, there's a couple things that I like to unpack there, which is what Chuck said beautifully. You have to align with somebody that you want to do business with, right? There's so many people, and you see them at these events, and they're not even hanging out with their organization because they have to do business with them because they're in the same group. It's not the type of person that you would call up on a Friday afternoon and want to go for dinner with or a beer with. Like, that's when you have fun with doing business, is aligning with people that have cultural similarities. They have the same core values as Chuck alluded to, and you want to build with them long term. And I think one of the biggest things, and this is why Chuck and I get along so well, is that when you're validating or vetting where you want to go with your business, you have to ask people for proof of concept. And I think this is really important because, again, in the ICA of any of these brokerages, it specifically states that the roles and responsibilities of a sponsor is to bring you into the company. That's it. That's all. So unfortunately, what that leads to is a bunch of people telling John Smith everything that he wants to hear and sugarcoating all of it. And then suddenly John joins the brokerage, doesn't get any of it, and they're on to the next person. And that's unfortunate, but it happens at any brokerage, right? Traditional and modern. Yeah. But when you look at it, Chuck has an incredible training system that he's proven based on practice. He can show you how to build one of the biggest, most successful organizations because he's done it. He knows how to take a brokerage and help them scale to the next level because he's done it, right? So there's not just practice built into this, but systems that can be screen shown and walk you through it so it's tangible. And I think that's where it's so important, is to make a decision as to where you want to go based on personal alignment, identifying and being honest with yourself of where your weaknesses are, finding somebody that complements those weaknesses, because as Chuck alluded to, you don't need an upline. A lot of people play the victim game over here, but having the right organization is essentially saying, I can drive down the highway at 70 miles an hour, or I can put nitrous oxide in the tank and go 300. Which one do you prefer? I prefer to go 300 because I want to get to my goals and shorten the learning curve, right? So that's all that this is. When you find the right cultural alignment, when you find the right systems, you have more fun, you have more excitement, you have more passion. It reignites your fire for the industry, which means you're going to put more effort into your business and grow further and go farther in life. So it really can make a massive difference. I just find it's important for people to do their homework and really separate the difference between a personal decision and a business decision, right? A lot of people join friends because they're friends, but if that friend won't be the vehicle that gets you to where you want to be in a fraction of the time, you're doing a disservice to yourself and your family by partnering with that friend and not vetting potentially better opportunities, right? And I have to echo what Chuck says. If I know somebody that's bringing over a monster of a brokerage, or if I know somebody that's in, Arizona in general, or the right organization, they want that local office, I am pointing them in Chuck's direction. And I think you also, for retention purposes, need to be humble enough to know where your strong suits are and to lean into them, but not to push a square peg into a round hole. If you're not good at something and that's the one thing people are looking to join you for, it's better to say, no, I've got a better person for this, because you know that if you give, that will come back 10 times over in the future in some way, shape, or form. Right? So not every opportunity should be taken just because it's an opportunity. Look at what's genuinely in the best interest for that person.
Yeah, and can I want to add to that, Mike, you really did nail that, because even when I owned my own brokerage, where I was located in South Chandler, if somebody in Scottsdale came in and goes, oh my gosh, I want to hang my lights, I actually said, look, I don't think I'm the best fit for you. You're not going to drive an hour or 45 minutes to come to my office. It is the same thing at EXP, because remember, we're all owners. We want this company to succeed altogether. If I had an agent in California that reached out to me and they're like, hey, look, we want to join with you, but we want someone local, I'm going to look up Look at Dan Beer or Kyle Wisso. If I had someone in North Carolina and they want someone, I'm going to go look for Tina Call. Here's the beauty of EXP. There are so many rock stars at this company that we all have the same mission in mind, maybe have different lines. Like I will help Mike all day long. We're different groups, but we still all have the same mission to make this the best real estate company in the entire world.
Yep. Love it. So then, so we talked about being strategic with your upline, and all those things that you guys said really just hold true if you're looking for a team leader, in a traditional world, if you're looking for an agent, looking for a broker, right? It's, all right. So then from there, when it comes to building your downline, because one of the big advantages at being at EXP is they have an amazing rev share model that I know has been a huge impact on both of you guys' lives, but you've definitely been intentional with it. So if somebody's with EXP, they want to build a big downline and whatever that means, right? Like, okay, I talk to some agents, they're like, hey man, if I could just get, not just get, it's a lot of money, but if I could get to the point where I have 20 grand a month coming in rev share, residual income, man, that would be life changer. Or if you have somebody that wants to take it to the level that you guys have with multiple six figures, coming in monthly, what is the key? What does it look like, from an intentionality strategy, like, what does it take to go out there and build a successful downline?
Yeah, there's so much to unpack here. And I think one of the principles, and I usually don't get too pushy with stuff, but this is something that I just genuinely have to be honest with, is that strong people don't follow weak people. And you look at the people that are on this call who evidently take care of their health, go to the gym, have consistency, have discipline. There's a reason why talent wants to align with us, because we demonstrate success and the principles of and habits of success in every aspect of their life. And it's not just physical fitness, but strong people don't follow weak people in the sense of mindset. So as Chuck was alluding to early in the conversation, when you've got these people that are bitching and complaining about not having enough agents, the market's doing this, my sponsor's doing that, my broker's doing this, the mentor's doing that, nobody that is disciplined and has the drive to build a successful business wants to align with you. You're toxic, right? So for me, it's really important to lead by example and to build strength in numbers by discipline, consistency, and leading by example with my business. But I think also you really have to identify two things. The first being your unique value proposition. What do you bring to the table based on your experience, right? Not theory, but like, what do you have to offer? Because there's, it's one of those quotes where it's like, if you, your imperfections are your greatest asset, right? So when you look at EXP, there's a couple of things that I say, which is that you are most qualified to help the person that you used to be, right? So letting that sink in, I used to be a top producer that was leveraging social media, that was stuck in terms of a geographically restricted opportunity, was burning out chasing the next deal, and didn't know where to go from there. So who have I helped a lot of people with? People that want to leverage content, top producers that are burnt out. You look at Chuck, who is he qualified to help? Brokers that are, unfulfilled with what they're doing, right? Brokers that have reached a capacity of scale. People that are not finding fulfillment in life and their faith, right? And their relationships. Like all of those people are who you were qualified to help. Lean into that as your superpower, which I think is so, so important. I think a couple of the things that are imperative to building your organization. The first one, which is something I'm passionate about that frustrates me, is you need to understand the opportunity. And what I mean by that is a lot of people are saying, okay, revenue share, I'm just going to go build this and I'm going to attract a bunch of agents and I'm just going to send somebody else's video. But you can't properly sell something that you don't understand. When you're in production, the thing that you're selling is your service. So if you look at a listing presentation, the one that wins the listing presentation is the best at selling their service. When you look at EXP, it is the product. So the ones that are the best at selling the product and understanding the nuances of it will be able to take that product and tailor it to each individual situation. Because all that EXP is, or any brokerage for that matter, is identifying where somebody is today, their future and desired state and outcome, and being able to bridge that gap with different aspects of the model tailored toward that individual. And most people don't take the time to learn that process, like most don't take the time to learn the listing presentation. And the last thing that I have to say to this before wrapping it up with Chuck is that I don't want to beat a horse to death, but when you look at EXP, I always relate it to YouTube. And what I mean by that is on YouTube, you've got a ton of creators. And the creators that bring the most value to the platform get the most in monthly YouTube AdSense or revenue share. When you look at EXP, or any brokerage that's cloud-based, you've got all these agents, and the ones that bring the most value to the brokerage in the industry get the most in revenue share. So change starts with being honest with yourself, and people that are not growing are lying to themselves by saying they're doing it all. They're saying that, you know, they've tried, but how intentional are you being? And the big question, the litmus test is, are you bringing enough value to the industry and to the brokerage and to other people at the brokerage? Like Chuck is the best I've ever seen at. He pours into people, right? If you bring enough value to any ecosystem, it is impossible for you not to build the business of your dreams long-term, right? So that's the question I ask myself is, are you bringing enough value to the brokerage, to the industry, and to other people?
Yeah, man, that was, all I could do is add to it, because that is some good stuff. I found the secret to building, and it's one word. It is called passion. Look, when you're passionate, that means you believe what you're selling. You see, people don't need to believe what you're selling. People need to believe you believe what you're selling. There's a different look in your eyes. I could not be at eXp Realty if I didn't believe in it. I didn't come for an opportunity just for the opportunity. I still had to believe in the vehicle. The reason why I built the largest brokerage, and it was only one office, and this is not an ego thing, it's because of me and my wife, period. As a matter of fact, for many years, they didn't even call the brokerage by the name Revelation. They used to say Chuck and Angela's office.
Yeah.
Right? Remember?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say more than I know.
And I can't tell you how many people I could close just by sitting in front of them. And they would always say the same thing. They go, man, the way you feel about this company, and we know who you are, this is where we want to be. And the biggest problem with most people in this world is they think there's such a thing called the instant gratification, overnight success. There is no such thing, but we're brainwashed to believe it. So when you're brainwashed to believe something like that, you just think things are easy. And when things get tough, you go, this does not work. I'll give you an example. I had an agent that signed up in my downline, and he wanted to build a revenue share business. And I told them what to do. And here's exactly what I told them to do. Do not call anybody until you completely understand what eXp has, what it offers, and I want you to believe in it. A month later, he calls me up because, Chuck, this ain't working for me. I think I'm going to quit. He goes, I can't attract anybody. And I go, did you do what I tell you to do? He goes, well, I'm calling agents. And I go, what are you saying to them? He goes, I'm telling them how I could get them out of the rat race with revenue share. And I said to him, that's awesome. How much revenue share have you made? He goes, nothing. I go, how the hell are you selling something you don't even experience? You can't have passion. They're not going to believe in you because they don't believe in you. And nobody takes their time to learn. 6 months of me going through the process was learning. Is this something I could sell? Is this something I could get behind? Is it something that I really believe can change someone's life? Because if I make that decision, I am going to be in front of 900 agents who've already said to me, we trust and believe in you. Am I going to be able to look them in the face individually and say, this is the best option for you? 6 months. And yet people think they're going to get in and just make quick money. It blows me away. They don't take the time or the energy to understand. We have a thing, which I think is just absolutely the most incredible thing any company could offer. We have a thing called an icon program that delineates the big producers from everyone else. But one of the requirements, Glenn Sanford was a genius when he set this up. One of the requirements to getting the stock back from the money they put in, which is a huge advantage for any producer, is you have some requirements you have to do. Give back to the company. And one of them is they call it iConversations. And every week in our metaverse, there's 3 to 4 agents on a week. These are icon agents. That means they're rock stars. That would be like you, Josh, when you were selling. For you to get some of your stock back, you'd have to be on this. That means any agent from our company could log in every week and listen to these mega producers and what they do to be successful. You couldn't pay enough for that.
Yeah.
Do you know a lot of our agents don't even know what that is? It's sad. So then when we get a bad rap, when someone leaves, they go, oh, that company's a joke. Believe me, they did it when they left my company. It's their victim mentalities. They never learned what they had and never applied it. So passion will always sell. And the only way you have passion is by understanding the product you have.
Yep. Yeah. Sales is just transference of belief, right? I love that. So then, to follow up on that, earlier we talked about leverage. Because you guys are 2 of the biggest builders that exist within EXP. I think, Mike, you're the fastest builder in the 12-month period, right? Number 1 builder. And both of you guys are just, so what is like you talked about unique selling propositions, you talked about, really getting to know and believe in the product and, but then from there, when it comes to that leverage piece, right? Because now when you're building, and I don't know all the ins and outs of how it works with EXP and the, downlines and whatever, but
if you got in, you would know it.
What's that? Yeah. Then from there though, I'm sitting there thinking, okay, well, if my downline, let's just say it goes 5 or 7 people deep. Okay. Then if I have a vehicle where then I can teach and train them, how to go out there and recruit to grow their rev share, but then be able to leverage my USPs. So they don't have to worry about building out the USPs. They're just anybody that they bring in, they can plug into the USPs that I'm offering. Because then now it's like if that downline goes, let's just say 5 or 7 layers deep for every person that you bring on, well, that's now 7 essentially recruiters, to really scale it. Because to build as quickly as you guys have, like I'm guessing you have to be pretty intentional with those leverage pieces.
Yeah. So let me dissect that for a second, because the way it works would be multiple ways of doing it. Yes, I have a training system. That's all plugged in, taken care of. And for someone who proves or shows me that they have knowledge of EXP and the system and want to build and want to leverage my system, yeah, they use it for free and then they build off of it. One of the things I had to look at coming from a traditional brokerage that was one office, I had to learn really fast 2 key concepts is duplication and scalability. Like Mike has something that's just phenomenal. Literally, I'm not BSing you. When anybody talks to me and they go, well, we're thinking about joining Mike, or they're at Mike and they're not building, I'm like, dude, you have the best freaking tool at your fingertips and you're the problem, not his systems. So yes, that's what I did. Right from the beginning, I said, if I'm going over there, I need this unique selling proposition, which is our training and coaching system that is scalable all over the country. But the other thing happens that is unique at EXP. So I give you, for example, like my direct sponsor is Jay Kinder and Michael Reese. Now, I came in and I didn't need to leverage them. I told you, this is all me. So I'm going to create my own, I'm going to build, they benefited. It's the same thing with me. As you start to attract, you will be bringing in other rock stars that don't need to leverage your USPs because they have their own, they want to build their own business. So you get blessings like having someone like in my group, I got Curtis Johnson. Curtis is his own man. That guy knows how to build. Kyle Whistle and Dan Beer, Tina Call, Mark Z. So it's people go, oh my gosh, you got like some phenomenal people in your group that when I have 8,000 plus agents in my downline, I want people to know I didn't bring them all in. I didn't even come close to that. There's where your leverage comes in. But it's not an accident that if you're not working and bring people in, that other people like that wind up in your downline. So it's not always intentional, but it's the law of numbers. It's if you keep working and you keep bringing people in, they're going to know that rock star that's coming into your group that will build on their own. Like I got one of the top teams in the company and really in Texas, the Andrew Franklin team. I don't know Andrew. I never knew Andrew. Now I know Andrew, but somebody else who brought somebody else brought Andrew in. So it works two parts. Yes, your unique selling proposition is important to get the initial attraction and to help people who don't have their own USPs who want to build, but then eventually you'll find their own rock stars that have their own USPs and build, and there's where you start to leverage.
Yeah, and I could just touch on something very quick there because Chuck said it beautifully, and I think this is the reality that most people don't want to hear, but I have to be honest because that's what we're here to talk about, is being genuine and transparent, which is that in the early days of any brokerage that's proven an exponential growing opportunity, the ones who are first are best. And what I mean by that is that the ones who are the first of the conversation back in the early days of EXP in 2009, 2014, whatever the situation is, the ones that were first to the conversation with any agent were usually going to get that agent because it was innovative, it was disruptive, and that was that. Now we're at a point where years later, and there are all these people with unique value propositions and different values and skill sets. The way that I say it, and there's no really better way, it's who's best is the ones that create the best systems, strategies, and cultural alignment within their group are getting the agent, because people used to validate and kind of interview different franchise brokerages. Well, now instead of people brokerage shopping, they're sponsor shopping. So you have to be very cognizant of the fact that if you don't have a value proposition, you better be damn good at communicating and understanding what you could bring to the table, because it's so many people will say it's unfair. Well, it's unfair for those that aren't willing to put in the work to build a proposition, right? So what we're in this time now is it's basically getting rid of the lazy who aren't willing to put the work in to build something, because everybody has something to offer. It doesn't have to be a full social media training program. It doesn't have to be a full brokerage production scaling machine like Chuck has. It just has to be something that differentiates you from everybody else, right? And I think,
wait, Mike, you weren't handed your USP, your that whole system?
I know, right? Funny, shocking. And I think,
you mean an engineer figured something out on his own?
Systems and processes, my dude. And I think Chuck just said something that is so important, and we have to talk about this, which is that if you're at any of these brokerages and you don't have the proposition or you don't have an upline, go build the proposition and become the upline, right? Because instead of just saying, oh, my upline is useless, and there are some that are, well, what you want to do is you don't want your agents to say that about you. So go lead by example and become the upline people edify and talk about, right? You could be a victor or a victim. You can have results or excuses. You can never have both. So what are you going to do about it, right? If you can't change your sponsor, which we never advise people to do, well, go become the sponsor people want to be a part of, right? It's very simple. Look at your strengths, create a resource that allows people to duplicate those strengths for themselves, and become the rock star that people are saying, damn, I want to be in alignment with Josh Smith, right? Well, now you've got a reason to, right? So I think it's really important to just look at, if you've already got something, leverage the hell out of it. If you don't have something, go build it. Otherwise, it's one of those things where it's like, this is, what one of my good friends, Andy Frazella, said is that, when there's sharks in the water and you're bleeding, you better get your shit together, right? And if you got no value proposition and you're out there bitching and complaining, you're the one bleeding in the water, and there's sharks like me and Chuck out there, and we all know what's going to happen, right? So that's just a fact of, like, you have to look at this as a transference of, like you said, Josh, belief, but also it's a transference of skill set so that you can help somebody achieve what you did in a fraction of the time.
Yep. Love it, man. So then, and I know we're going long on time here. So, I've got a couple last questions for you guys, but real quick, before we get in these last couple questions, if anybody's watching this, listening to this, of course, I'll have all links below. But where's the best place for people to be able to follow you guys, to get in touch with you guys? Maybe we'll start with you, Chuck, just in case they're driving down the road, don't see the show notes.
Well, I mean, you could easily find me on Facebook, Chuck Fazio, Chuck and Angela, iconic power couple. Same thing with Instagram. And like I said, we're doing a marriage one now. So if you're out there and you're not in real estate and you like listening to this and you're struggling in your marriage, listen to what we do. So yeah, I'm easy to find.
Same here. Hit me up on Instagram, Mike_Sherrard, or comment on any of my YouTube videos. We reply to 100% of comments because we actually care. So either which way, pretty easy to get a hold of. Google me, and more than happy to pour into anybody.
Yep. Love it. All right. So then, where do you guys see? I mean, you guys have both built such amazing organizations. Like where do you guys see this going long term? Like put a 5-year, 10-year. I don't know what the longest, what that longest timeline that you have on it for this vision. If you guys have a vision, maybe we'll start with you, Chuck. Like where do you see this thing going, man? I mean, you've already have this amazing momentum.
Well, being in the real estate world and in the business part of it for many years, I've been through downturns and good markets and bad markets. Right now, we're in a challenging market from an agent retention standpoint, because we all know a lot of agents are getting out of the business right now. That doesn't faze me in the least. People who aren't understanding of the business part, it phases them, and they look at growth, and you see all these, right now, everybody comparing this company to this company and who's taking a hit and who's. Look, you can do that anytime, anywhere. Market's good. You'll be look who's doing this. I believe, with the leadership team we have, with Glenn and Michael Valdez and Leo, we're rock solid with the ballers that we have at this company as leaders, coupled with a platform that could scale globally to any extent we want, and them being visionaries. They're not just, it's almost like Amazon. They start out with books, and then they went to this, and then they went to that. Same thing with Uber. First is with cars, then it's Eats. We're the same way. And people really don't get that about EXP, because they just look at the real estate, residential real estate brokerage. We're EXPI. Publicly traded. We have multiple businesses. Our commercial part is the fastest growing commercial company. We've got the training system, Success Lending. We've got a co-work space. We are the Amazon. We're not going away. We're just going to grow. Right now, everybody's growing slower. Once the market shifts again, once people really start to understand this is the future, pick and choose one of these brokerages, we skyrocket again. So where do I see this? I see us as the #1 real estate brokerage in the entire world, creating more millionaires and multimillionaires than any other brokerage has ever done in the history of real estate.
Yeah, and to add in my 2 cents, I think this is going to be something that hopefully people see is from a place of being genuine, but it might rub some people the wrong way. But it's just the fact, and it's just the truth, is that we're going to do exactly what Chuck says, but all is not created equal. And what I mean by that is, we talked about the value propositions. You look at any company like WFG or any other company that is in a similar space, right? Over time, what happens is the companies continue to grow, but within the company growing, there are certain organizations exponentially growing alongside, and certain organizations that are not growing or net negative because of how they treat the model, right? So what I think about, and we talked about this with leading by example, creating culture, building a unique value proposition, understanding the opportunity, is that the company is going to grow, the company is going to achieve massive success. there's going to be others within the company that are going to grow disproportionately relative to the other people at the company based on how much they care and the value they bring to the brokerage, right? Which is why, people always ask, why don't I check out, or why don't I dial back my time? And it's because I want to lead by example forever. I'm doing this as a 50-year play. If it doesn't last 50 years, I don't care, but I'm treating it like that, right? So I think it's really important to look at this as a long-term opportunity, but to lead by example. And as Chuck alluded to, always pour into people and develop talent along the way. And I think you're never going to worry about growth if that's your approach to this.
Can I add one more thing, Josh, for people who are thinking as business minded? Understand, like I said, for me to close down what I closed, I didn't do my homework just based off of temporary. I looked long term. Now that we have other mimickers out there, which is great, it's proven the model. Here's what I say. You really need to understand who you're aligning with. Don't just be sold on, well, they pay out quicker and they have no office fees and they have this. Look, in the industry, it's been done all the time. Some of these companies are hemorrhaging right now. Some of these companies are buying agents. You've seen what that did to Compass. My point is, if you're truly a builder and you're looking long-term and you're going to put your eggs in a basket, do not take a chance on a brokerage you don't know or that's hemorrhaging. A smart business person is going to go with a proven model that's scalable. And that's what we're doing right now. And you've got a lot of this coming out there, guys. Business owners, if you own a brokerage, get out of your own way and build your business on a proven platform.
Yeah. So, and I meant to ask this question that I'm going to ask now before the question that I just asked you, but it goes hand in hand. So, both of you guys are in this for the long term. And those always seem to be the most successful people out there that have, hey man, I'm in this for the long game, right? But when it comes to starting this out, like both of you guys have built these absolutely amazing dream businesses that I think anybody that's, wanting to jump into EXP probably dreams of going out there and creating. How long did it take to get the momentum before you started to see some decent payoff there? And the reason I'm asking this is, people in our industry, as well as just human beings, stop 3 feet short of gold all the time. Yeah. Right. Oh man, I tried Facebook ads for 90 days, didn't work. So I quit. They don't work for me. Right. Like how long, hey man, if I'm doing this and if I'm doing this right, how long does it take before you start to see some, decent results?
Mike, you could go ahead on that first.
Yeah. I can talk about what happened to me, which is a bit of an unexpected situation. And then I can talk about what happens with most people. And what happened with me is, again, I came over here for production. I didn't come over here because I didn't really properly understand the revenue share opportunity. But what I also didn't understand was the intimacy of the audience that I created. So when I made the announcement and added context as to why I made a decision and really resonated with a lot of people, I had 30 people partner with me in the first 30 days and the second and the third. And in 4 months, I had 100 people join me. And then I was like, well, damn, I should probably start supporting these people and help them scale. Right. So it kind of threw me for a loop, and I got out of production and went all in because I was putting out all these videos. But again, like, this Josh and Chuck is like, you get, hundreds of views, thousands of views, whatever the situation. You're like, is this real? Do they actually care? How much do they like you? And you never really know, right? As long as you're humble enough to look at it in that perspective. And I just genuinely didn't know. So mine built quickly, and as did Chuck, but Chuck's much more quickly. But when you look at it from me, I think my perspective for a lot of people is, yes, it's going to take time, right? And I think it's a teeter-totter effect where, if production is putting food on the table, don't just quit production and go all in on revenue share day one. It's a teeter-totter effect. It's kind of like active prospecting versus, passive prospecting. You do both in the beginning, and then active prospecting sucks. So when the passive starts to build momentum, you can dial back the active and ramp up the passive. It's the same as this. It's like, when you're getting into this, don't just burn the bridge if it's going to put you into debt. Understand that production is also the sexiest thing in the industry. So lead by example, continue to produce, but build as well. And then as your residual starts to scale, you could dial back production, amp up the residual and start to scale. But I think, and I know this is not the right way to answer the question, but it's my perspective, because people are looking for an answer, and I'm going to give them the one they don't want to hear, is that when people are looking to build revenue share, I tell them, don't even ask the question or consider how, because the question that I always get, Josh, is how long will it take me to get to 10K a month? And my response to that is, it doesn't matter. If you do the right things forever, you will get to 10K a month. And it's kind of like people asking, how long will it take to get a lead off YouTube? Well, if I tell you 3 months and you don't get it in 3 months, you're going to get disappointed, discouraged, and you're going to go to TikTok. But if I tell you, do this for a year and you don't get it in 3 months, you'll be a little bit sad, but not out of the game. It's not going to bother you in the slightest. So my response to people looking to build revenue share is do it forever. And as long as you approach it in the right way, you will get more residual income than you ever could have dreamed of, but don't try and quantify it within a certain, timeline.
Yeah. And Mike, you said something that I didn't even think of until you just said that. The beauty of this is we're not telling you to stop selling real estate. We're a real estate company. You're selling real estate right now. Keep doing the same thing. But at least with EXP, you have the opportunity to start ramping up another business, another stream of income while you're selling real estate and getting stock. But I don't like that question. It would almost be like if Josh, an agent, went to you and goes, hey, I'm new in the business, how fast could I get my first sale? I mean, the answer. There is no answer. I don't know. I don't know how hard you work. I don't know your sphere of influence. I don't know if you got somebody ready to buy a house right now or sell a house right now. It's an answer I would never answer, because I always look at it, success is a journey. My question I would say is, where you're at right now, how fast could you get revenue share? And the answer is always no, I can't. So at least you have the opportunity to build something as you go. And look, you want to kill it, go work hard, kill it. I got people like Kurt Shewell and GoGo who just go out there and they go, Chuck, just tell us we're just going to kill it. And they do. And they build fast. So I don't like answering that question, but I will say something that some people do ask that might equate to that. So some people say, well, Chuck, these newer companies, I'm getting in on the ground floor. I have a better opportunity. That's the biggest horseshit I ever heard. Then you completely don't understand our model, and you completely don't understand real estate, because real estate's always a revolving door. When you look at a model and you make that excuse, basically you're saying it's one pool, that's all it is, and you can only fish so much out of it, and then you can't fish no more. That's what they're really saying. My response when somebody says that, oh, but you got in early. I could have got in early and I would have been, no. I got people actually underneath me who already passed me in agent count. So here's what I say to people when they think that way. This is what I tell them. There's over 1,500,000 licensed agents just in the United States alone. Okay? I'm a multi-millionaire with 8,000 agents. How many agents do you need to make a shitload of money? From that pool? A pittance. So what you really want to ask is, what model do I want to leverage to get there? It doesn't matter. You could start 2 years from now, because we're going to be growing to 200, 300, 400,000 worldwide. We're only at 88, 89,000. And there's multi-millionaires. So what I always say is the opportunity is there. The door keeps revolving. And like I said, 1,500,000 just the United States. Mike's in Canada. Canada's growing. We're growing all over the world. That means the playing pool for real estate agents are millions. So when somebody says, oh, I'm leaving because I got an opportunity to get on the ground floor, I go, you know nothing about business and this type of a model we have.
Yeah.
Well, even just to echo that, you know, people saying that they get in early, I believe I was agent 56,703. So when you talk about getting in early, I got in after a certain number that is larger than any of the competing brokerages that have a cloud-based brokerage all combined times a multiple, right? So, and I've been able to build one of the fastest growing groups ever at the company,
And a millionaire.
right? So yeah, and become a multimillionaire. So I think, you know, early is relative, right? If you're at 88,000 agents and you're going to go to 500,000, or if you're at 13,000 agents and you're going to go to 25 or 50,000, which one's an earlier opportunity? So I think perspective is important. And for me, it's important to align with something that is proven based on data, not predicated on hopes, dreams, and what ifs.
Yep. Love it. Powerful stuff. All right. So I know we're going long, been a couple hours here. Anything, any last words, and anything that maybe I missed, didn't ask, any last words, any last piece of advice that either of you guys want to give before we wrap up here?
The only thing I want to throw in here is EXP made this possible. In what you're seeing with me and Mike is a fraction, like a minuscule, it's like sand of the type of talent we have at this company that comes along to help each other out. We are the future of what real estate is. And by watching now all these models popping up, I embrace them. I don't look at them as competition. I don't look at them as in a negative light, because this is what should have happened in the real estate industry. Glenn just exposed it early on, and we got in first with the right type of platform. So I'm excited about the growth of EXP. I'm excited about the big players that are still coming and will keep coming. I am really looking at the industry to get a lot of these mom and pop brokerages that are sitting there out there and maybe listening to go, here's my answer to you is, what the heck are you waiting for? Because if you want to build something, basically what you're saying is, I want to build to what Chuck had. Well, look what Chuck did. He closed it. Don't get to that point, because then that decision becomes harder. So my point is, this model is phenomenal. The leadership is phenomenal. And the people at this company are phenomenal.
I love that, man. It's so powerful. And again, I think a couple things on my radar as we kind of pull this full circle is, again, you know, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, to go together, right? I'm very cognizant of the fact that I'm good at certain things, but also very, very aware and honest with myself about my weaknesses. And I've formed incredible brother-like, family-like relationships with people that complement those weaknesses so that we can all build together. And I think if you're trying to do this and prove to whoever that you can do this by yourself, go have fun proving it, but you'll see how the numbers fall when the cards settle at the end of the day. And, you know, the last thing that I just want to say about this is that, you know, if you over deliver on value, you will never lose. And I think if you pour into people and you come from a place of service instead of selling, and you pour into people and genuinely care, everything you could ever want is going to be a byproduct of that if you do it for long enough. And the last thing that I want to say, which we kind of loosely touched on here, is that, you know, me, Josh, Chuck are no different than any of you. We've just been more consistent and more passionate and intentional about the right things for a longer period of time. So knowing that if you're not where you want to be in your business right now, have that honest internal heart-to-heart dialogue with yourself and call bullshit on where you're going wrong. You don't need an accountability partner. You need to be honest with yourself. Get clarity on where you're going wrong, why you're not doing what you need to do. Align with people that have proven the process and done what you want to do, and just follow their steps to a T. And you're going to get there as well, likely in a fraction of the time. So don't overcomplicate it. Don't be so hard on yourself, and just understand that it is possible, and it still very much is an early opportunity.
Yep. Love it. Such powerful stuff. And Chuck and Mike, I truly appreciate you guys coming on here, jamming with us. What we got, just over 2 hours now that we've been jamming. You know, I truly, truly appreciate and honor you guys' friendship. And again, just sharing all your amazing knowledge with us, man. This has been a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you, brother. Grateful for everything.
Yep, 100%. All right, you guys. Well, thank you so much for watching, listening, all your support. Keep crushing it, keep kicking ass, and we will see you next time. Peace.